Yeah, we hear the term happy wife, happy life, right? And your wife, I look at your wife as like a frequency. I mean, you frequently have to be with her, right? You live with her and you frequently see her more than anybody else. This determines a certain frequency. And a frequency is a level of vibration. Somebody has to be the head of that household, right? I made a video where couples even start to think alike, right? The woman gets influenced by her husband, may even start picking up certain belief systems and indoctrinations from the masculine, which is the man of the house. And that's determining who's more masculine in the family, whether it's the man or the woman. See, women, I've seen nowadays, have more masculinity than certain men. It's not to say that they're gay or they are men, because masculinity is not a gender. It's an energy that is channeled through an individual. I've seen women utilize certain forms of masculine energies to the point that they're more logic and reasoning. They use logic and reasoning better than a man does. And a man sometimes lacks logic. It doesn't make him any less of a man, but he's lacking the masculinity, right? And what is a man, right? Because you have man and woman. They're both men. They're both men. It's just a kind of man. That's why they say one giant leap for mankind, right? They're not talking about just men. They're talking about man and woman. When you look at the gender of the body of the individual, it's either male or female. That's a fundamental truth backed up by science. And you have energy and spiritual expressions that have to be coherent to that particular role. That's the role you have as an individual here on the planet. Now, the imbalances are coming from trauma. They come from symbolism. They come from the foods you're consuming that are poisonous. They have a lot of phytoestrogenic. There's something called xenoestrogenic. All right. And they actually disrupt your endocrine system. So they basically short circuit your brain. And this is why you have this dysphoria where you don't even know what you are, a man or a woman. Now, the whole gay and straight thing doesn't fall into this category. If you're gay, you're just naturally a person attracted to the same sex. It's a natural thing, but natural in a way where you're still not in accordance with nature. All right. Natural for your position to feel the same chemistry that I would feel when I'm with a woman. Basically, my dick getting hard, the little butterflies in your stomach, the I can't get her out of my mind thing, you just have it with the same sex. Okay? So, in actuality, you're supposed to accept this the same way a person is born black, they're born Spanish, or they're born white. You can't change that. You get what I'm saying? You have to accept what you're born. You were born either a black man or a white man. You can't change your skin color. And you can't change your sexual preference or orientation. But you cannot also change your gender. Now, these things here are normal, but normal because they're normal for your subjective experience. The fact that you may be born a boy and you think you're a girl, that's a mental imbalance. All right? That's a mental illness. All right? The mental imbalances when you are gay is because you're not conducive to nature. You can't reproduce. But that's a polarity that exists the same way that men are the polar opposite to women. The same way that good would be the polar opposite to evil. The same way all these things here that we look at in society are ran on polarities, not duality. Duality is the illusion. Polarity is the necessity for you to experience your reality. Electromagnetism. So when you have these polarities, you're able to have an experience. You have a mind that's conscious, and then you have a subconscious mind. One cannot exist without the other. Racism is something that's taught. You're taught to discriminate against other people. Okay? Your natural state when you're here is subconscious. Subconscious is the emotional mind. How you feel. You start to develop an individual, and you develop your individuality up until a certain age. You start to use more logic and reasoning, right? So now, in this subconscious state, there's more of a unity. You ever have an awe feeling? You're in your feminine state whenever you have an awe moment. All right? You're not thinking from logic and reasoning. Okay? You have a more of a sense of togetherness. That's why you have this awe feeling. Everything that you have as a separation ceases to exist in that moment. And you just see everything more united. You have a sense of unity when you're in that awe moment. Something that, pulls on your heartstrings and whatnot. When you have these imbalances, let's say gay, you play the gay part. Okay, you just play the gay part. See, since you're not conducive to society, to nature rather, not society, but nature, you shouldn't have kids because gay people can't reproduce and have kids, right? So why are you trying to play a straight role when you're gay? You see, these are the roles that are mandatory when you know yourself. If you're gay, have a gay relationship. But if you're trying to have kids, that's now an illness that should not be accepted because you shouldn't have kids. Okay? If you're good, you're good. If you're bad, you're bad. It's like the devil can't be good because if not, he was never the devil. God cannot be bad because then he wouldn't be God. You're gay. Be gay. Nobody has issues with that because I understand that what you feel toward the same sex is what I feel toward the opposite sex. You can never feel that toward the opposite sex because that's not something you can do. I know because I can't force myself to be gay. I can't, like, suppose if I just woke up and said I want to be gay, that's an impossible thing because you can't force something to happen. Anybody could do anything, right? Anybody could do anything, but nothing that doesn't really turn you on, right? So it's not what your sexual preference actually is, right? So the acceptance is accepting what you are. When you're a man, the main thing you want to do, learn everything about what a man is. Learn everything about what a man is. The same way you would know, because you don't have to be gay to talk about situations about gay people, right? You just have to know yourself. When you know yourself, you can talk about certain scenarios that doesn't involve you being it. Because you're none of these things to begin with. At the root fundamental level of this, you're not even the body. But your role as a man and the role here, that's why they say love is the answer to everything. Because you're here to learn and love everything in your environment. It sounds woo-woo, cliche, and it sounds kind of corny. But love is the answer to everything. It's all about love. What is love? Love is the glue that's holding all of this together for you to even have your experience. So when you see all of these gayness and whatnot, the reason you think you're so masculine is because, or whatever the fuck you think you are, is because these oppositions exist. In fact, they say that, all these things are more powerful than you. AI. They say that, aliens, if they come here, they can eradicate the planet because they're way more advanced than us. How you know this? Right? How do you know this? How do you know you're not more advanced? You look at these ancestors within you, they're more advanced. Do you know your ancestors are depending on you to get everything right, because all of these ancestors that once supposedly lived, because time is not linear the way you look at it. There's only now. The past and the present are only now. There is no past and there is no future. There's only now. So all your ancestors, the idea of whatever you think your ancestors are, they all live within you right now. The same way you live in this body, and whatever you are trying to accomplish here, you're trying to do it with the grace of Jesus Christ. Or Jesus coming back to the planet to save humanity. Your body is Jesus Christ. And these ancestors live within you, depending on you to save them and free them from the slavery that they once lived here. But you're looking at them as higher than you. They're waiting for you to save them through you. Whatever suppressions they may have had, they may have wanted to do certain things. There's a reason why you're born with certain urges. There's a reason why you're born with certain gifts and talents. You need to express those, because you're the body that was placed here now to make that happen now, so that they can express that through you. But what's holding you back is lack of self-awareness. You don't know yourself. So when you look at AI, you look at all these things, you created AI, you created all these things in your image the same exact way. The same way we are told that man was created in the image of God, it's actually the inverted way around. God was created in the image of us. So when you look at a picture of God, you can only make it into a human form for you to understand what you're looking at. But you look at a man and it's programming you to worship something that looks just like you. So you worship other people outside of you in the form of bigger YouTubers, in the form of people in politics, bigger debaters like Charlie Kirk and all these dumb fucking people that actually talk online, because they're all fucking dumb as hell. They're literally dumb as fuck. All they did was learn how to argue. They learned how to debate. Their position may be a lie, but they can actually win the debate and convince people that they won the debate only because they have the proper knowledge and tactics to beat another person who may have the truth but doesn't know how to argue or debate. That's how it is. It's like a lawyer defending a criminal in court, and the lawyer may know that that criminal is a criminal and he's guilty, but they're getting paid a lot of money, so their job is to actually defend them in court and get them free so they can get paid. And how do they do this? Learning the whole entire legal system. They speak legalese, something you don't speak. Same way with debates. There's debate terminologies and tactics that you don't know, that you're not aware of. There's certain ways to trap people and put them in certain states where you suffocate them and they just kind of lost their position. They wouldn't even know how to even bounce back from it. It's literally modern warfare. So people debating now is all mental jujitsu. You can make somebody submit by having them concede to your arguments. You can knock them out. The moment you knock them out is when you've completely dismantled their position, and their credibility is in the toilet. They're publicly humiliated. People don't listen to them no more because they're dead. Technically, their character that they portrayed online is dead. So people don't even look at them no more. Because they're like, who the fuck is that? That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Right? Because he didn't know how to argue. That's it. I went like in a different topic, and I'm trying to figure out where the hell did I even get to this point, right? But who gives a shit? I mean, I'm just flowing with whatever the hell comes out right now as we speak. But we were talking about, we went from gay to masculinity and all that kind of stuff. But this is important because the logic and reasoning is masculinity. You see how they talk about this nation is a Christian nationalist state already to begin with, right? It's like when you look at this, right? Your body, all right, is the body of Christ. And white people, when you look at them, they're the manifestation of masculine energy. And feminine energy is the manifestation, black people are the manifestation of feminine energy. And you can see how it plays out because through the toxic points of these polar opposite ends, black people are trying to be equal to the white man. You don't notice how they fight for reparations? And now they submit to white people now. There's black people defending white people saying that, oh yeah, white people own this country and white people, they're more in a sense where like black people are in a fallen state. You get what I'm saying? You even got Jesse Lee Peterson always bashing black people, but taking sides of the white man. You see, the whole thing is he's in the patriarchy, right? So the patriarchy always will, since the feminine energy is manifested through the black people, right? Because the black person's trying to be equal to the white man, when in actuality, blacks and whites are supposed to work together. This is why Jesse Lee Peterson favors white people. That's why he even has the White History Month now, just to kind of match it with whatever Black History Month was coming out, right? And when you look at women's month or some shit, like there's a women's month, I think. Is there actually a men's month or any of that kind? There's no White History Month, there's no men's month or anything like that. But if you look at everything that the black person is basically symbolically representing here, is feminine energy. And their job is to actually know themselves. They are the embodiment of black magic, while white people are the embodiment of what you would see as far as Christianity, the cult of white magic. This is supposed to be actually working in harmony together. There's only one thing that's ruling this planet, and that's your manifestation of your ego, which is a very small percent of this planet, a small amount of families, the Rothschild or whatever the fuck their name is. That's your ego. That's all it is. AI is a manifestation of what your body is, right? And because AI doesn't know themselves, AI is trying to learn human emotions, complexities, and whatnot, right? They're trying to get a heart just like the Tin Man was trying to get a heart. You see? And the straw man is trying to get the brain. This is why you go to court and you can't use your masculine head, because you don't have a brain. So you have to have somebody else represent you, like if you were a child in court. So you're a cowardly lion too, right? Because you don't have courage. You're supposed to be the king of the jungle, right? This jungle, but you don't have courage, but only because you have low IQ. So you don't have a heart-brain coherence, so you lack courage. All right. And then you have Dorothy trying to find her way back home with her little dog Toto. And that's your subconscious mind looking to find her way back home, right? Through the heart, which is the projection of the world that you're looking at outside of you, because anagram for heart is earth, but only because the head is not placed properly, which is the brain, the IQ. You have low IQ. But you can change all this. All you have to do is become aware of all these things. And when you do become aware of all these things, how do you start to change it? Right? You become indifferent toward these things outside of you. It's not to become heartless. The fact is that when you actually have the heart is a war organ. So you can actually say yes or no. You notice how people who have a weak heart chakra, they always want to be a people pleaser. They say yes all the time. They never say no. They don't have the courage to say no. They'll just say yes even though they don't want to do it. And this weakens your aura, weakens your spirit, weakens you overall, drains you, because you're doing something you don't want to do. So you, having a strong heart, know how to say no. So whenever you're looking at your environment outside of you, you know not to partake or entertain that shit, because you're not here to take part. You're here to take over, if anything. Because when you take over, it's not taking over your environment. It's taking over your proper space. That's projecting the reality you see outside of you as reality, your subjective experience. Now, when it comes down to gay people or any of the sort, embrace your uniqueness, your individuality. Embrace all this. The other things, for example, if you can have people who are schizophrenic, right? You can have people who have all these things. People who are schizophrenic, supposedly they're hearing voices and they hear things that others can't. You notice how spiritual people, they're trying to hear spirits. Meanwhile, there's schizophrenics who hear spirits actually, or hear things in their head. Whether it's in their head or not, your reality is still projected from your mind as well. So a person who's observing their reality, Your brain is what's actually looking at reality, listening to reality, feeling reality, smelling reality, and tasting reality. It's all in the brain. It's all in the brain. When you see, your eyes are just basically decoding the lights that we're looking at outside of ourselves, which is basically you. The heart is you. The sun is you. So your brain is what's seeing everything and making the best guess of what it is that's outside of it, of the head. It's literally guessing reality. That's what it's doing. So looking at it like this, I mean, shit. And you have a schizophrenic. Who's to say the schizophrenic is crazy? The schizophrenic is probably in a much more advanced state than you are. Because actually, there's been studies where there's more DMT in the urine of schizophrenics than a person who's not schizophrenic. But we give these people drugs to mask these things. A lot of times these voices are very hurtful. They're very toxic, right? But that's only because the person's in a fearful state too. Now, there's a point also, because this also very much intrigued me. There was a moment where I was like in between wake and sleep state. And I thought this was happening, but it wasn't happening. I was sound asleep in my bed, or my body was at least. But I felt like I got up out of my bed and I went down on the floor, but I couldn't really get back up. It was like my body felt really heavy. And it was really weird. I'm like, man, why do I feel so heavy right now? And I was just thinking this as I'm trying to get up. But that I wasn't really up. My body was in the bed. I really thought I was on the floor trying to get up. And I heard voices going, look at this nigga, bro. He thinks he awake. He's still asleep. And I'm like, what the fuck? Who the hell was that? They're like, look at this nigga. He still thinks he thinks he's awake, but he's still asleep. I heard that shit so clearly. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to turn around and I woke up on my bed. But this was the most, I couldn't tell you how freaking crazy realistic this felt. It did not feel like a dream. It felt like I was literally outside of my bed on the floor trying to get up. And I heard these voices very, very clearly. Like they were just clear as you're hearing the voice coming from the camera right now that I'm speaking through. It was just clear. And I wake up and I'm like, man, it just felt way too real. There's times I've came out of body where I've had the question if I was actually out of body. I had to touch my plants because it just started to feel so freaking crazy realistic. At first it felt kind of like, it didn't feel real, right? It felt very light. Everything felt very light. But the more time I spent out of body, everything started to become more dense. And I'm like, man, am I out of body? And I started touching my plants and it felt weird to the touch. And then I saw my dog walking by me. That's something that my dog always does when I come out of when I'm walking outside when I walk outside of my house, my dog always follows me. He goes to use the bathroom. So my dog really walks himself. And I'm like, wait a second. And that's something that happens every day. So I'm like, wait, am I out of body? I just kept asking myself this. And then my dog turns around and half his face is missing. I'm like, oh shit. And then that startled me. And then I woke up I came back to, I wasn't out of body anymore. So you see, like all these things are things that you start to think about. And you're like, man, I start to question what the fuck reality, I was in that reality. I think the more time you spend there, the more it solidifies. You're here for a certain period of time. This is why you become so indoctrinated the older you get. That's why they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But that's if you're too close-minded. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be childlike, right? So the whole thing is, you're a child. You notice how you're all water in the womb of the mom. When you come out of your mom's womb, you're more liquidy. You're more watery. You're, my battery was about to die, so I got to make sure I turn my car back on. So you're more watery, right? So now what happens is that when you're getting liquid food, baby food, and they acclimate you to solid foods because you're growing up, the building blocks of life. You want more of the building blocks of life, right? But when you're capped out and you're going backwards in age, or you're declining in age, what you want to do is introduce more hydration or less food to the body. You don't need to eat so much building blocks because you're done growing already. That's why a lot of people start growing sideways. In actuality, you should be hydrating more, introducing more of the liquid foods into the body. You get what I'm saying? So these are the things that you're supposed to be doing. But this also keeps your mind open and sharp, believe it or not, because your gut is connected to your brain. So the more solid food that's why they say you are what you eat. And when you eat dead foods, you're kind of dead. You know what I'm saying? You just basically, you're not really, I mean, you're more grounded to this reality. But in actuality, sometimes the smarter you are, the stupider you actually are. You get what I'm saying? Because you're too much in the intellect, right? What you want to do is be more into your heart space. So that's why you have to take periods where you disconnect from this reality, disconnect of all the ideas of what you think masculine and feminine is, disconnect from spirituality, religion, all that bullshit idea that you think you're experiencing here, because it's all ego anyway. And just be in the heart. Stay in the heart space as much as possible. Think about the frequency of the heart, or listen to binaural beats of the frequency of the heart with the color green. There's certain drums that actually activate this heart chakra. When you do this, you'll start to see reality differently. But you can actually notice the difference on how you see reality. For example, you know how they say open up your third eye, but your third eye is in your head. You know what I'm saying? That would actually make you higher IQ as far as like being able to see through people. If they're trying to play tricks on you, if they have ulterior motives, they're trying to backstab you, somebody that's not really your friend, you can see through those cracks, right? In the physical realm. But when you're in your heart space and you have this heart-brain coherence, now you're able to see multidimensionally, but you also perceive time differently. You're in a different frequency, because when you meditate, you notice time is different. That's why astronauts, they say that when they go into outer space, they age a lot slower. You know what I'm saying? So that's because when you meditating, everything slows down. Your heart rate slows down. So it's anti-aging, because you can't leave space. The only way you could do that is actually the same way you go out of body, is through a meditative state. You change your brain waves. That's the way you can inhabit other planets. Right now, this reality, the reason why you should practice exercising your heart chakra is for that reason, because you live in your heart now, but you're not aware that home is where the heart is. But you're not home. You're not centered. You're up here and you're outside of your body all the time now as we speak. You're trying to come out of body, right? But you're already outside of your body. Every time you come outside of this reality, you're not really centered in your body. You're not experiencing reality. You're experiencing other people's realities, because you're trying to fit into what others' expectation is of reality. That's when you're outside of yourself, you know? So home is where the heart is. When they say they're going to inhabit Mars, that'll be an alternate reality, where if this one ceases to exist, or at least it exists, but instead you'll be inhabiting Mars, and Mars is basically your root chakra and your sacral plexus chakra. So right now, that's why everything pulls on your heartstrings. They're trying to attack your heart, which is your ego. There's no they. They is you, is your ego. But you got to be aware. Once you become aware, then you actually are the one making the proper decisions to actually favor you. Because if you favor yourself, you're favoring humanity overall, and humanity is you, is the blood cells in your body. Okay? But if they inhabit Mars, they're really just inhabiting your root chakra and your sacral plexus chakra, which involves your masculinity, your courage, your self-esteem, your willpower. You see all these things that right now they're getting attacked through the intellect to have you believe all these things. You won't be part of whatever their plans are to inhabit Mars, because only the very rich could do that, right? But think about how you even got here. How do you know you weren't somewhere else? And then they said, in order for you to inhabit Earth, right? There was another Elon Musk somewhere, and then all of a sudden, this is how you ended up here, right? You could be in any reality, any planet you want. All those planets are co-governing your chakras. Your chakras co-govern your organs. All your organs are brains. That's why certain emotions get stored in certain parts of your body. My girl's calling me, so that's pretty much all I got right now. I'll make another video to tie in this interesting topic about your body, because the bone marrow, the blood, that's all Mars. The bone marrow is where your DNA, all that shit is. You know what I'm saying? Bone marrow, Mars, blood. It's literally the juice that powers your body. It's like, you know how they say you're bathed with the blood of Christ? You already are that. You're bathed with the blood of Christ. And all these pieces, when they enter different ages, they just basically taking over certain parts of your body. But the main engine is the heart. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll talk soon.